Hey, hello, everybody. Listen, this is episode one of the unnamed Brian and Kasha talking about AI podcast. So, just for intros, because nobody knows who we are, I'm Kasha. I'm an executive creative director at a branding and marketing agency called Moncur.
Yeah, I'm Brian. I'm a partner software engineer at Microsoft, working in the office of the CTO.
There's a new tool, Brian, that you showed me week before last, and then it just started like gathering some steam, and it's gotten a little bit of a blow up moment on Hacker News, and some articles are coming out about it. This tool is called Amplifier, and so just like one line description first. What's the one line version of what is Amplifier?
To me, it's taking all the stuff that we've learned over the last number of years and dumping it all into one common AI tool. How can it take my ideas and like help me to achieve more with that than I'm getting from the other tools that are out there today?
We're about to show everybody like actually under the hood of what this thing looks
Yep.
like. But before we go there, you wrote a Medium article. You wrote at the top of the article as you're introducing this thing, this is not a launch post for a new Microsoft release. Hey, everybody, this is not a launch podcast for a Microsoft release, but you're getting an under the hood peek at some pretty exciting stuff, right?
Yeah, so I'm working on an innovation team. Like our whole job is to just go out, explore, try different ideas. A lot of our stuff isn't always going to be like practical for everybody to use right away. So, but we're figuring out the techniques and the tricks. And then once we find the things of value, then we'll start sending it down the pipeline, figuring out like, how do we make it efficient? How do we make it more accessible? How do we do all that?
Let's stop talking about it in theory. Let's talk about it in reality. Brian, share your screen. Just give us a look. Like, what is it right now? And then let's do this. Let's work on this demo.
We have been building stuff up over the last couple of years. And that when you start combining all these together, they really kind of amplify themselves. Like it kind of creates this feedback kind of space. In harmony, they produce something more than all the parts combined together.
Okay, hang on. In harmony, they produce more than the parts combined together. This is a set of tools?
So it's a set of tools, techniques that we've learned over the years. You found, for example, that the models, you can't always just come in and go, here's how I want you to do a thing. Because if you do, you end up fighting that. But if you go kind of even more extreme and go, no, we want you all over here, you end up with this kind of like in the middle compromise. These learnings are the kinds of things we put in there. And that's just one piece of it. Another piece of it might be things like being able to teach it how to think the way you want it to think, make decisions the way that you want it to decide and things like that. And, each one of those is valuable, but if you combine them all together, that's where Amplifier really shines.
Yeah, as you're doing things, making it better, making it smarter each time you create something new with it.
Yeah, I mean, and that's where this started. Like this really started with, I had more ideas and I had time to try out. So the very first piece of this was just simply like gather these all together for me and then start to be able to look across them, find common themes around an idea that I had to then start building for itself the tool that would allow me to then use that capability to do that better.
So we're in your GitHub right here. Just orient us to what we're seeing. If somebody knows what they're doing here, what are they looking at?
Yeah, so this is the main homepage. Like when you first come to the github.com/Microsoft/amplifier, you end up on this page here. I was just clicked in on the README file, which talks a little bit about it. Again, reminder, like this is a research demonstration. If you do want to take that all on, here's how to get it set up and get it up and running.
So you were showing me the scenarios because you guys have already built some stuff.
Yeah.
Give me a sense of like what kinds of things have been built or are you building?
Yeah. So one of the neat things, so we're calling these scenarios. I went to go put them in as examples, and then I realized they're more than examples because I was going to show you the kinds of things that we could build with it, but then I realized like each one of these is actually really useful, and we just actually use them. And the other benefit is because they're now we've checked them into the code base for the Amplifier tool itself. It becomes tools that it can use.
The scenarios you checked back into the code base, so now Amplifier uses those tools that are already created to execute other activities or tools that you're asking it to create?
Yeah, just like you would, over time, work with a tool like this, you might build up some memory kind of data that it could use to, build context and things like that. This is a similar kind of thing, just in a different direction, like build up a set of tools. If you take, for example, here, I'm going to show you one that's a blog writer. If you think about all the kinds of things that would have to go into a tool like that, if it doesn't have to do all of that for you and it just has a blog writer tool and it can offload to that, well, then now we can have it do things at a higher level.
I can ask ChatGPT to write a blog for me. Where does this excel over what ChatGPT can do for me?
So I got the blog writer here. This was one of the first ones that I made. made. And so we created this blog writer tool that will let me pass into it an idea that I have, brain dump into it, but then also here are my past writings. And so this is how it can like learn my style and things like that. And then it'll go through and it'll figure out my writing style. It'll draft it all up. It'll review it. It'll refine it. And it'll do a bunch of this on its own because I told it how I wanted it to do that. And so even in this area of like blog writing, I'm not a great writer. I've spent hours refining my first couple blog posts to get them to my style. You can feed these things into a ChatGPT and say, do that thing. I'm going to let you tell me what would that process look like for you if you wanted it to do that.
Here's my examples. Here's the thing I want to do. Go do that. Or I could prompt chain my way through it. Here's my writing style. What do you assess from that? Okay, now that you assess that, here's my idea. Write a blog post about that. But I have to do that one step at a time. I have to really invest in getting it to understand what I'm trying to create each time.
And if you've been doing it for any amount of time, like you start to learn there's like a bunch of tricks. Like there's all kinds of techniques you can start to learn that are kind of like these are the power user ways to do these things. You have to learn those things. And then I guess my next question for you would be like, how do you like help others to be able to do the same thing? You got your peers around you are like, that's amazing. I need it. How do you teach them that?
It's so laborious. I found that it comes down to every individual's own experience with an AI tool. If I've found a certain way of doing it with Claude, but if I'm trying to teach that to somebody else and they're really used to using ChatGPT, the steps are not necessarily transferable because Chat understands things differently than the way Claude does. And the way that they're used to working with ChatGPT is not the way that I am. So I know that I can get repeatable output, but trying to cut and paste that to them, they're often like, oh, that didn't really generate something as good as what you had generated. And I'm like, well, you quote, didn't do it right, which is my way, but my way is only my way because it happens to work for me.
And that's one of our biggest challenges that we run into. That's where we're at in this early days of like these assistants. Like they're getting better and better every year. You know, it's amazing. But at the same time, like to get the best value out of it, like you have to know how to wield them. But now that I figured that out, like how do I make that easy, repeatable, and all that? And what I want to be able to do is give people the ability to be able to like talk at this level, describe what you want, describe your what you've found useful. But I think the real power is go create me the tool that's the repeatable, that's the dependable thing. I can keep coming back to it day after day, and it's already built, it's already stable, and that's where like give me a code first kind of thing. But that also has all the smarts of an LLM. Also, like I want the best of both worlds.
What I'm hearing is Amplifier is creating tools that are defined by rules of code that can execute with an LLM through natural language to create an output. This solves a couple of key problems for me. Key problem number one, the LLMs are unreliable. If I give it a long set of instructions like this, it doesn't always reliably work all the way through all the instructions. My workaround is to break it up into individual steps. That's key problem number two. I'm doing a crap ton of cutting and pasting. Doing it from here and then take it to this tool to do this next step and then take it from here and then take it from here over to here. But you're saying like, no, Amplifier is going to set that whole system up so that I can give one input. It will run in a predictable, dependable way through all of the steps. And I'm doing it through natural language. And if I want to do input output cycles, you can tell it to do that. That's what I just picked up as the vision of what you just said.
What's interesting here is I would love to show you this one live of like, let me go create the blog writer. But there's a problem with that. You know, it knows how to write blog writer instantly because like it has the source code for it. So one of the challenges I've had to come up with or deal with is the fact that every time I give a new demo, because what we end up creating is actually really useful and we just like, let's add it in. You and I chatted before this call and we talked about what's the problem that you're having. And so let's go through that instead, because then we're also demonstrating this is how we make Amplifier more useful for us. Because like once we do this, what we're going to go do, and it can do this well enough for us, like we don't have to do that anymore. And that's a really, really important key. I'll let you walk through this because this was your problem statement and your idea here.
Yes. Web research tool idea, because this is a pain point for me and for a lot of people. First off, I can't trust LLM's chat assistants to do research accurately for me. The fourth bullet, I have no control over the process or have a way to reproduce an iterative experience. Brian, when I give an LLM a research task, it goes and does the thing. I have lost control of what it is doing.
And it requires you to babysit. You got to let it run. Then you got to hit the next thing. You got to hit the next thing. What if instead you can just hand it off, let it go, even if it takes an hour or two?
Like me being able to go do stuff while it is doing stuff is the gold standard, not me watching over your shoulder while you did the thing, which is the same as me doing it in the first place. And then finally, this is really hard to transfer to others to be able to do.
Yeah. And you know, and you can go find a web research tool. You know, I'm not saying like this is the best web research tool. This gives us the ability to go, here's how I want to do it. Here's how my would take on it. Here's the thing that I want.
You said it in your article, Metacognitive Recipes, how to decompose, plan, stage the work, verify, recover from failure, make decisions, evaluate, and think. It's a way of thinking, not a formula for doing.
Correct. And that is really the difference. And that's why we've slapped the label metacognitive on the front of the term
Right.
recipes.
This is like Kasha's personal metacognitive recipe right now, this right here, because what we really did is you and I talked through like, how do I do web research, or how do I like web research to be done when I'm working with teammates? We decomposed it, we planned it, we staged out the work, we put verification loops in it. That's what this is all for, is so that ultimately we got to a thing that was like, oh, well, this is one way to do it. You could create a
Yep.
different spin-off. This is the way that works for this metacognitive recipe, which, if I'm being honest, is built out of a lot of experience and a
Yep.
lot of skill building over many years of this is the way good web research happens.
And then what was neat about that is like, yes, even though this is on my screen right now, I took notes while you were talking. But the point was like, this is not how I would have done web research, because my experience isn't sufficient enough in that area to have thought of these kinds of approaches and these techniques. This is your metacognitive recipe for it. And then we're going to put it in the tool and let the tool make a thing for you. And I'm going to use too now, because like, I like your web research idea better than what I would have had. I'll get to use the tool that now is the Kacha version that he created. And I get to use it now. I get a little bit of you bottled up.
And that's why I love the promise of AI and AI for everyone, is that AI gives me the ability to get a little bit of Brian or a little bit of Kasha or a little bit of somebody else and the way that they think through things. Amplifier is like the capture of a person's experience so that it can be reproduced by other people to create some actual valuable output at the end of it. Okay, so go through the request, because then you wrote up the request. What did you write up? Why did you tell it these? Because this is what we're going to tell it to do. This is how we're going to tell Amplifier to build this tool.
You know, I had you explain to me like, what's your process for this? So like, yeah, you know, it's really like writing down what are the steps, you know, that somebody else could follow. So like, you're going to start with a research question that's important to you. You know, you've baked in here, you said these are the things that you felt would be important in order to be effective at the research. Like, it needed to understand the type of research, because there's lots of different types. You talked about the persona of the researcher, like you would go to different people to do that research. And then of course the depth of the research, like that's a great point. And then we said, that, yeah, and then they should just iterate on that. Like, this is that part that you said you wanted that back and forth.
Brian, if this was a human, this is like the kickoff discussion. You're going to have thoughts. You're going to have clarifiers that you want to ask me about. What if we looked at this angle? I'm like, well, I hadn't thought about that before. So like that whole thing right there is, I want to do that with the AI ahead of time so that I really feel confident that we're headed into the right territory.
Yeah, these iterative loops of being able to like put your idea in and have a chat with it. Well, it's got some goals that it's trying to, because you've now baked that into the scenario. I've gotten in some really cool virtuous circles where like the idea I ended up with at the end was like far better than I started with because of that.
Yes, that's the value of interacting and not just giving instructions.
So now we're just describing like, then it should invoke a web researcher. Now we're not getting into technical terms. We're not saying go build a thing that will call an LLM and having to explain like it needs to do, you know, any of the like. So it's going to create, you're asking it to create a web searcher, and it should perform the high level preliminary. So like, we actually wanted to go do a web search. We wanted to go follow links, but like you wanted this particular approach. So like, just tell it and bake it in there. Read the articles, make a judgment call. I thought this was a good one too. Like, you commented on the fact that like, you know, there's a lot of garbage. It's up to the reader to discern that. And so we're asking the LLM to take a pass at that and then make a set of notes. This is just good practice. Like having these things captured in useful notes. These are things that will continue to improve our system that'll happen automatically for you. And then we're just telling it to like break down. And that's only because you wanted that more broken down, the reliable steps too. I think one of the things that we're missing in here that we should probably also have done here too is we probably should put another bullet in here. In fact, why don't we just do that real quick? Let's put another
We're
step.
doing it on the fly, real time.
Not the fly, live demo here. After this step, pass the notes over to a fact verifier.
Oh, interesting.
Go back and make sure that the claims being made are actually accurate. Then, where there are discrepancies, feed it back to the web researcher. So like that's simple. Like we just thought of another idea. And it was like, oh, this would improve this process. So we take the set of notes. We want to extract themes from across those notes, identify a broad set of those themes, as long as they're still focused on the core question.
Because this is where I see a problem with just asking an LLM to do web research with me, is it is not doing any kind of narrowing. And I want this to create productive themes we should continue to explore.
Okay, so what I'm going to do is I've got the amplifier code checked out on my local machine, set up in my dev environment, all the prerequisite stuff done. And then we've got a command that I've put into this version of amplifier that we're going to use for that today. And that's one called ultrathink. Behind the command, there's a whole bunch of instruction. And you'll see it's us kind of baking in what we're talking about is this metacognitive recipe approach. Here's your rule. Here's how you're supposed to handle this. Here's the the subagents you should use. Here's how you're going to like hand off context. Here's how you're going to like do this review cycle. Like, so we've baked in a lot of our process. And then now what I'll do is now I'll paste in what we just wrote up, and now it's off. It's apparently embellishing. It's going through their thinking process, and now it's going to start doing the actual work. It's going to design a research tool. It's an amplifier tool. So it's recognizing already. We're going to make a CLI tool that's powered by amplifier under the hood. And so like knowing the intelligence of amplifier on top of it, in fact, it even says right here, it's going to do large scale web processing, hybrid code AI workflows, state management, interactive loops. Like this isn't the stuff you normally would have to read. This is the model just, or the agent, the Claude code system telling you what it's doing. It's going to build all of these parts.
Wow.
It's going to go implement a fact verifier component. And that's going to be a mix of code, amplifier under the hood of it, which is using Claude code and LLMs, like all bundled up inside of that, just in that one bullet point.
Is it going to pause at some point and say, hey, am I doing okay?
So in this case here, because what we gave it was enough information, it's going to go off and go build the whole thing. And so I'm using this as more of an expert user. I gave you the instruction. So maybe that's the next tool I'll make, is actually the tool that'll be used for making tools. That'll take my process that I was just explaining to everybody here on this video as the front door.
I have a vague idea of what I want the AI to do for me. I'm not very good at articulating it. So I would love that. If Amplifier went to like production mode, I would love like a front door that was like, tell me your wild, stupid idea. Let me help you figure out how to make that into a thing. Hey, everybody, just FYI, we spent a full 45 minutes, me telling Brian all the things that are on my mind and him writing out that prompt that actually gets this thing to work because he understands how it works. So I'd like a Brian as a front door to my Amplifier instance.
So my boss, it's funny, he actually has a command that is the /D plan. And that's really what it is. It's like he's taken all my notes and he's put it under the hood of it. And he's like, dude, this is the way that Brian would do it.
Let's go back to the prompt that we were building because we interrupted that in order to get this thing running. We're looking for themes, a theme extractor.
And then so now that we've got these themes extracted, then he said, let's take that broad set of themes, take that set of themes and then the original context and then pass that to now we're going to have this theme reviewer. So we had a theme extractor and now we have a theme reviewer. And then we say like, and then just keep doing that. Keep doing that until the user says, well, I'm good. Continue.
It's exactly. I love this so much because it's so human at this point. It's a loop that continues until the user is satisfied. Now I feel like I have control. Like that was one of my problems. I didn't have control. I feel like I have control in this process together.
And by the way, this is the reason why I say my non-programmer friends are the people that are kind of sometimes run circles around me on this stuff. Because in a programmer mindset, until I had to unlearn a lot of my thinking, like I wanted to actually have down under the hood control. And then after we get all the results, then those steps are done. Then take those results. And then the theme refinement info. So again, we're telling it like, these are the specific things we want. Pass it to a writer. Like this is an actual writer. And I don't know, is it going to create an agent? Is it going to just make a call to I don't know. I don't know that I care. Like just like that concept.
I'm realizing where we said pass to a writer, we could have defined something else. We could have said pass to a PowerPoint designer that would create a deck. Could have been anything, but we just happened to say we wanted a written report at this point.
Your mileage may vary because like if I said, hey, go pass it to a PowerPoint writer to write a deck, I know personally right now, like we do not have a tool in there that's going to reliably be able to take that request and make me an actual PowerPoint.
This tool is going to take a while to compile and finish itself up, and then we can test it out and see how it's working, etc. Let's come back and do that in another episode. I think we should wrap this up because I feel like we've got enough in our heads and in everybody else's heads. I wrote down Amplifier is a customizable tool builder that creates shareable tools. And this is the metaphor in my head. You and I both play guitar. If I take an electric guitar, not plugged in, and I just start strumming, playing, how much do I hear? This input of pick to strings, this prompt that I'm giving it, I'm getting a little tiny, I hear a little tink, 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 little tiny bit of the thing. But if I plug that in to my guitar and I plug that into an actual guitar amplifier, I hit those strings, I could fill a stadium with sound. That's the metaphor that's coming to my mind. And this is the customizable and shareable part of it. Any other guitar player could walk up to that amplifier, turn the knobs, make it customizable to their sound, or go up there and go, I really like your tone. Okay, I want to do that. I want to copy those settings, those knob settings for myself. That's the shareable part of it. That's what I feel like Amplifier literally is. Maybe because we're guitar players, this is how we think. It's literally a guitar amp for AI tool building.
And in no way does it diminish like the value that Claude Code is, that ChatGPT is, that Microsoft Copilot is, and so on. Like they are all powerhouses that like we're building on the backs of these giants. If it wasn't for those, like this, none of this would work. And so like
No,
100% credit to where credit's due there.
absolutely. And if we extend the metaphor there, those LLM powerhouses are the electricity that makes the whole thing work. We just happen to
Yep.
be an interface that we're channeling electricity from a user input to a system that broadcasts it in customizable ways. Make this available to everybody as soon as possible so I can get my hands on it. What should we expect? And people are like, okay, when do I get my hands on this?
So the version that I was just showing you now, the version that's on our repo, like anybody can go do that today. However, caveats, like it is a developer, kind of background-ish needed. I mean, I've got some non-developer technical friends who are leaning in and doing it, and they're having success, especially when you're using like a ChatGPT to help you do that. The other part of it is this one is really not that accessible right now because of the fact that that version, you have to use Claude Code and you have to have one of their higher, more premium service levels. And then the exciting part about the new version is like we've optimized around the idea of like we can't go build all of this by ourselves. We want to invite the community. We want to be able to internally across the company have more people pouring into this. So then the idea being like you as a user can go, I can just download a version, but it doesn't quite be what I need. I need a flux capacitor strapped to the back of it. So I'm going to take my DeLorean that I got and I'm going to like strap that on the back and supercharge it because some cool researcher dude over here made that. And I'm going to make mine use that. And so like we're opening the door for that kind of thing.
When you give me an opportunity to put a flux capacitor on top of my amplifier, I will be very, very happy. Okay, this is awesome. We'll pick more up on episode 2. We'll keep this conversation going and continue unpacking this and other thoughts that we have around AI. Thank you, everybody, for Brian and Kacha talking about AI episode 1. I hope everybody got some fun out of it. And Brian, I'll talk to you again soon, man.
All right, thanks.